Okay, Shar and Tim, you're good to go.
Great. Thank you so much, Sean. Awesome. All right. Welcome everyone to the Identity Special Interest Group for August 22nd, 2024. Thanks for joining us today. Today on the agenda, we will go over working group status updates as usual, and then we'll hear a presentation from Andreas Sigurdsson, who's the founder and CEO of Zada. Please correct me if I'm saying that wrong. For a presentation entitled Unlocking Value in Southeast Asia, the Zada Trust Network and Ecosystem. So I'm really looking forward to that. Thanks for joining us today, Andreas. And then let's see, since this is a Linux Foundation call, we're following the Linux Foundation antitrust policy, and as a Hyperledger call, we're also following the Hyperledger Code of Conduct, which are both linked here. We're, of course, recording the call and we'll post it here later today for those who want to catch up on the call afterwards. And let's see. Are there any announcements that anybody would like to make before we jump into our agenda? And as well, if you'd like to put your name on the attendees list right here, that would be wonderful. All right, if there are no announcements, I will go ahead and jump into our working group status updates. I'll try to get through these pretty quickly so that we have plenty of time for the presentation, but please jump in if you have any updates of your own with groups that you are involved in. All right, so in the Indie Contributors Working Group, we've been talking about the Indie Project Charter. This stems from the recent intent to form announcement from the Linux Foundation and Hyperledger Foundation about Linux Foundation Decentralized Trust that we've talked about on this call. So what we have talked about and done in the Indie Contributors Group is created an Indie repo similar to the overall Aries repo. This we also defined the location and the list for the new technical steering committee for Indie and the maintainers. And it's a lot of the charter and the setup is quite similar to what's in the Aries charter. As a general note as well, we'll talk about in a moment about other projects and Aries, having discussions about moving for Indie. For the Indie project, it will stay with Hyperledger under LFDT since it's a distributed ledger. So good discussions on all of that. On the Ubuntu 22.04 upgrade, waiting on a review of the PR, so that is coming along well. On the Indie Besu project, revocation is in progress and coming along. And then there's a Hyperledger meetup planned for the end of September, focused on Indie on Besu. So that'll be interesting. And let's see, in the Aries working group, the last 2 weeks, they've had a two-part discussion related to changes related to LFDT, whether or not to apply to move to the Open Wallet Foundation. The process is that a proposal is made and then a presentation is made to the committee that reviews the application. So on those calls, they discussed considerations around moving projects under Aries, applying to move, whether that should be as a group or moving independently, which projects, etc. And it sounds like the consensus was to apply to move. In Akapai, the Akapai user group as well, there were similar discussions. The consensus was to apply to move to the Open Wallet Foundation. So it sounds like that application will move forward as soon as Monday. And then also discussing adding a data integrity proof to any document. We had a presentation from Patrick St. Louis. The super big announcement, I should have started with this, is that Akapai release 1.0 is out. This is super exciting, big milestone. And then we also had a presentation on export functionality overview from Jamie Hale related to being able to see what's in the wallet more easily. In terms of, let's see, anon-creds. They've been discussing a proposed scheme for unlickability with zero-knowledge proofs using hardware-based holder keys. And then they also had some project status updates related to the revocation manager for Allosaur. That's going to be a Hyperledger mentorship project that's being executed. Auditing as well from Mike Lauder. And then discussing as well the anon-creds project charter. Again, this stems as well from the LFDT, and they're going through a similar process of creating an anon-creds repo, etc. So that's a super quick overview of our Hyperledger working groups. In terms of trust over IP, they had yesterday an all members meeting, which was a high level overview of working group updates, which we will go over in these other groups. Communications committee, I don't believe they've been super active, but please correct me if I'm mistaken. The governance stack working group has been a bit light on meetings over the summer, but they've been working on the TYP governance toolkit. And let's see, the technology stack working group is the one that has a ton of task forces underneath it. So just as a quick overview, the technology architecture task force has their specification that they're working on. It sounds like they're working on a draft by IAW. For the, let's see, the ACDC group, they have the three major specifications, carry the CESR and ACDC. Those are in second public review. Let's see, for the AI and Metaverse Task Force, their current main initiative is their white paper on TSP and AI for authenticity, and an accompanied blog series. That'll be interesting. The Trust Registry Task Force is working on their protocol implementation and Trust Registry Query Protocol Companion Guide. Those drafts, I believe, were published in April. In the Trust Spanning Protocol Task Force, they are delivering the TYP Trust Spanning Protocol specification. Let's see, the Credential Exchange Protocols Task Force is on pause for the summer break, but they will start meeting at the end of August. And let's see, the DidWebS Task Force let's see, they've got a spec in post-public review, so that's coming along. The X509 VID Task Force is making an important pivot. There's more details on that at their link. In the Trusted Web Task Force, so this task force was canceled because it was decided that this work will be done at the DIF and W3C community credentials community group. Let's see, so that's all their task forces. In terms of the Ecosystem Foundry Working Group, they have been working on the Digital Trust Ecosystem Building Blocks template, as well as the Building Blocks Companion Guide. And then Concepts and Terminology is, they've created a main glossary that includes almost 400 terms to harmonize across all the TYP deliverables. Okay, so that was a super quick overview of TYP groups. In terms of the diff, with the DIDCOM spec working group, we reported on them last meeting, since they only meet on the first Monday of the month, but they've been talking about OpenID DIDCOM, combination of OpenID for VC and DIDCOM. And then Home Assist integration is something they're discussing and working on as well. In the users group for DIDCOM, they've been planning an interopathon that's coming up the theme will be DIDCOM V2 communication basics, and they've got a list of the protocols they want to support. So that will be really cool to hear about. Let's see. As far as I could tell, I don't think the interoperability group or the IoT special interest group have met. Let's see. In terms of the Open Wallet Foundation updates, Sean, would you want to, it looks like you updated some of these. Would you want to jump in with some of those updates? I think you might be more familiar than me.
Absolutely, and I'm happy to. Shar, I'm going to do this super quick so we can get to Andreas. We have a meeting calendar. These are for both the SIGs as well as the project calls. The architecture SIG is taking the rest of the summer off. They're coming back the second week of September. We're going to be focused on a mapping project around the projects that we have at the Open Wallet Foundation, understanding the features, functionality. And it's not about evaluating, it's not about scoring, but it's about what is here. And that's working with both right now, Credo and Bifold. The Safe Wallet SIG has completed the Safe Wallet guide. It's I think we're calling it 2.0 at this point. The PDF and the Markdown are there. We're working on a blog post and an AMA, basically a meetup. That's to be scheduled probably the first or second week of September. The Credential Format Comparison SIG is a fantastic organization within OWF. They've been working on a public resource for understanding what the credential formats are that are out there. It is built by the community, so there's no organization running this. It's if you've got a credential format and you don't see it on that list, please add it. And the same with the Wallet and Agents Overview. This is another public resource that the community at OWF has put together. I believe both the Credential Format Comparison SIG and Wallet and Agent Overview came out of Rebooting Web of Trust a couple years ago. But if you've got a wallet, please add it to the list. If you see a wallet on there that you're already working on and it doesn't have all the information filled out, by all means, please update it. This is crowdsourced. Thank you, Shar. That's it.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Sean. All right. Does anybody have any other either announcements or working group status updates that they would like to give? All right. With that, I will pass it over to Andreas for your presentation.
Thank you very much. Let me get my slides up here. Great. Well, thank you for inviting me. And if I happen to disappear, it could probably be because there's a power cut. Right now, I'm sitting in Yangon in Myanmar. It's about 10 p.m. So there are power cuts regularly. So it will take a few minutes before I'm back when I'm changing the network. So please bear with me.
Absolutely.
Well, this is very exciting. So thank you really for inviting me. And I have to be honest, my pulse has been going up listening to this because there's so much stuff going on, and I'm just worried that I will not be able to, get into the same depth that you're presenting. And I think you're doing an amazing job collecting all this information, because I'm for sure I'm not up to date with it. I'm struggling to catch up what is going on. So I will not try to do that now. And what I will do is that I will just try to share our journey. I will share a little bit how we have been using these tech stacks and solutions out there, trying to create value. So if this is too boring or too simple, let me know. I can speed it up. I can change the topic. But this is the journey of SADA. So SADA started in COVID-19. And I'm Swedish, and I've been based in Myanmar for the last 12 years. I started in Taiwan and China almost 20 years ago. So half my life already in Asia, and I love it. And what SADA is also something I realized when it comes to vocabulary, because you should call ourselves a trust network, an ecosystem. And I realized talking with tech people, a network might have a different meaning. And you probably understand what we do, but as a mission, what it set out to solve was to enable trust anywhere, anytime, especially across borders, in person and online. That was the whole mission. And what we did was that we focused from the very beginning to solve problems for real people. And being based in Asia, but coming from Sweden, of course, there's two different worlds of when it comes to digital literacy and digital transformation. And we went for the really non-sexy stuff. We tried to help people to prove claims they had. And these are what you quite easily forget, especially in the Western world, is that there are people whose livelihood depends on being able to prove their claims. Here's a conversation about the woman in Singapore that couldn't get the Myanmar government's credentials being verified. But as soon as she found out that her hospital, in this case, worked with SADA, it just took a few seconds and she was done. And this is what really drives us to keep pushing forward and trying to find other needs people have. So as a company, what we do is that we focus on enabling claims to be quickly attested and easily verified. We work with reusable credentials that, of course, are tamper-proof, secure, and verifiable. But more importantly, they're provided by trusted organizations. And we make sure that all the data is under control of the individual. What we offer is a branded platform. So think of as a Visa MasterCard, where we provide the trust network. And in this case, we're talking about the network that has issuers and verifiers, creating an ecosystem of these people acting and creating value with solutions, applications, and logins. And underneath the user, have a wallet. We don't really want to do a wallet, but we had to, because we really believed in this whole verifiable credentials concept. And since there was no wallets that time, we felt it was easy to use. We created an open source one that we put out that people are using. This is a ZADA. So the name of ZADA comes from a traditional Buddhist thing in Myanmar, where you are born, you get this piece of, it's not really bamboo, I think it's rattan, where they inscript all their details of your birth, your time. So pretty much your proof of identity when you were born, and you use this especially for fortune telling. So we felt that, okay, when you're born, you traditionally get your ZADA. And when you start your digital life, you have your ZADA to support you to prove all these details again. And we went live in August 2021. We got accepted by the Singapore and Thailand immigration authorities 6 months later. We have around 100 issuers on the network so far. We have passed 200,000 credentials a while ago. And we're ticking up to the same amount of user wallets as well. And we have nice cases of seafarers, hospitals, insurance companies, online ticketing agents, governments across different countries as verifiers in this case. And we even start getting, surprisingly, the Swedish embassy to recognize us. The thing I kind of want to emphasize was that although people say that COVID has passed, COVID is very much needed for people still, in fact, and COVID was what got us started. But it's not as simple as just giving out credentials. And I think this is, where our strength is, because our strength is not the technology. We did the first POC with the Trinsic. I worked very closely with Evenym, in fact, first, but the Trinsic was cheaper, easier, less risk for the monthly fee. So we did a quick POC in 2 months, I think. We used even their wallet. But then we managed to pitch this to a stock-listed hospital group that said they needed it. So in 6 months, we went live with the whole production system. And in 12 months later, we had 150,000 patients with wallets and over 200,000 credentials. I think we had even 20,000 in the first month. So that was a credential, but it was not that easy because they did not have any system. So in order to even enable this, we had to build everything. We had to build their whole patient handling system. We had to build their whole booking management system. And that's how we made the money. That's how we managed to get the revenue going from day one, was to monetize the bookings, in fact, not the credential issuance. And most of our resources were on the ground. We had people in every vaccination center helping people to download the app. We ran weekly cycles weekly sprints, where we collected and we worked over the weekend to fix the problems. And we were kind of brutal with our prioritization. So it was a very sharp learning curve. But we managed to. We went out, people got their vaccination certificates in a wallet, and they could travel to Singapore. So we were recognized officially by the Singapore immigration authorities in December, I think, and Thailand in January, up at the same time. But also that wasn't easy, because we believe that SSI is very cool. So here's our API. Just do a request and people will share the credential with you. But they say, no, we want to have a QR code. So we had to develop a QR code solution for them. So people receive the credential on a DIDCOM connection, and then they showed it using QR code instead. Then we expanded. So from COVID, it went into students traveling to Korea and Japan. They needed to collect not only COVID, but they needed to be vaccinated against a wide range of sicknesses. They need to have their proof of skills, the proof of language proficiency. We realized the seafarers had the same problem. They needed to be tested for lab tests before they went out on the sea. They needed to have health checkups. They needed to have proof of skills again as a seafarer. And we worked with all type of ages, old to young ones. Learned a lot of fascinating problems with mobile wallets, from usability, screens, different phone models, Chinese phones with no Play Store, people sharing apps using Sapia instead of the Play Store, so they cannot be updated. And then we expanded to corporates, manufacturing companies with thousands of workers, providing proof of employments, employment records, vaccinations again. We managed to roll out our old vaccination system to private clinics, so create paperless clinics for smaller clinics now. So the ones who cannot afford large patient management systems, they could start using our kind of web-based system. So very simply, they could handle the patients, provide them with all the vaccination test results, but also the medical bills for the insurance companies. We keep expanding wherever we find a need. KYC for financial services, mobile wallet integrations. We support national IDs now that can be added. We have quite a few universities and students. You can request and receive your degrees. And it's a very simple wallet that stores credentials. We have built a wide range of apps to interact with the SADA network and the ecosystem, where people can verify the credentials, the QR code in this case, but also send the request. So the probably highlight, so to say, would be that you can receive a credential, you can accept it, you can share it, accept sharing a credential. You can, in fact, use your phone to scan someone's QR code and verify that one and see the data. We have developed solutions like check-ins where people can scan QR codes, and then we have a connectionless sharing of credentials and goes to a webhook somewhere. We work with what do you call it, telemedicine organizations for remote sharing of credentials, so they can send a request to a patient and then receive whatever they would like to have, the patient ID or insurance or medical referral is one thing that usually happens with the telemedicine. So we are live with quite a few different user cases, but we've been keeping us away from the sexy ones. So we go with the really boring, low-level paper ones. So we try to replace paper pretty much. And as mentioned in the beginning, the goal is really to find a way to transform the trust journey, to make things more seamless, make the interactions more trusted, and enable personalized experiences. And of course, I realized talking to you, I should probably add something about technology as well. And this is a kind of a slide I usually have. And when I looked at it, it usually says built on the latest industry standards. And I quickly realized that's probably not so true anymore, because there's so many things happening. And I think we're stuck in the old ages. So I put the citation marks there. And what we do is quite simply, we run an ACAPI, we use unknown creds, we use DIDCOM connections a lot, we use webhooks a lot, we use Sovereign still. And the reason we have been evaluating technologies quite a lot, we did a migration away from Trinsic in August last year, because when they changed to V2, because we were too heavily invested into the whole tech stack and with the DIDCOMs and the webhooks. So we had to run our own ACAPI. And we decided to stay with it because of a very simple reason. It worked. That's it. It's probably not the fastest way to work with, say, Sovereign, but it was trusted. We trusted it, and we want to project trust to the ecosystem we work with. So for us, it was all about using something that worked. And usually we don't really pitch the technology that much. What we try to do is to leverage technology to create the trust. And it's the trust that we pitch to the issuers and the verifiers and users. So, well, that was pretty much that one quick. I would love to explain more if there's anything, if you have any questions, if it was too simple.
Absolutely. This is super interesting. Really cool to hear about your use case. What was the process of being accepted by the Singapore and Thailand immigration authorities?
So it's a very good question. And it was, in fact, it was a milestone for us, because that was the one that it was kind of a what we call stamp of approval.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really based on two things. One was that of course, they reviewed the technology to make sure that our claim of tamper-proof data was true. But the biggest thing was the governance, that they could trust, that SADA enabled them to trust the issuer. So they really immediately, because in the end, what they did was that they trusted the hospitals. They trusted that the private hospitals had vaccinated people. And there was no government credential involved, there, no government certificate. It was just that the person goes to hospital, register themselves, get it in the SADA wallet, same point of vaccination, and then they go to Singapore. So it was, we just have to prove two things: the tech platform we're using, plus the governance framework, and the fact that we went there, we had people on the ground. So it was the kind of the due diligence of the issuer.
Right. Interesting. Cool, thank you.
Absolutely. And talking about these technologies, I might add also that the hardest part we are facing is that this Southeast Asian market is very hard to sell, because the understanding of the concepts it's still early stage. Our advantage probably would be that we are, in our kind of stroke of luck was that we decided to launch in a really market in early stage in the digital transformation. So it was not so hard for them to switch to SADA, because everything was already on paper. So it was kind of already decentralized. They hadn't moved into the centralized storage of data or patient records. In fact, the patient records today are stored in a book that you bring with you, and you give it to the doctor, he signs it, and you get it back. So the change to SADA was quite easy, because they were already used to have control of the data and bring it with them.
That's super interesting. I was wondering as well, about the payment model. Earlier you said that you monetize the booking rather than the credential issuance. Could you say more about that?
Well, since we are we're not a very well-funded company, so we had to figure out ways to make money. And hospitals and this are not that interested in paying for issuing credentials. It's more for the benefit of the patient. So we had to figure out a way to monetize it. So we built the whole booking system so when a person wanted to get vaccinated, they paid online, and we took a fee on that. So it had nothing really with the credentials to do. It was more of a way of monetizing it.
Right.
And then we've been expanding the monetization models in different ways. So we now we charge memberships for the network to be on the network, being a trusted member, because we have done the due diligence. There's a fee for them to pay.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Nice.
So different models.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, so Alfonso asked the question there. How is SADA used for academic credentials? Same thing. I mean, it's especially cross-border. So Southeast Asia, these kind of proofs are required to get access to markets, to get jobs. The education credentials are crucial. And having them verified is a mess. It takes a long time and can cost money. So we just have the universities to issue the credentials directly to the student, and the student can use them for cross-border travel, embassies, for work applications. And you can say it's improving. In fact, we even have microfinancing start using academic credentials in order to create credit risk profiles based on what type of education you have.
Have
So we
there?
really
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no. I mean, so we don't really have a very clear roadmap. We are really learning and moving and expanding where we see there is need and demand. And I think a lot of focus has been on the cross-border travelers, because we see that that's where there is a big impact and need. People are quite exposed when they cross the border, and having a delay in document verification can have a big impact.
One thing I was also wondering is if there have been any challenges or surprises related to expanding from the COVID and healthcare specific credentials to other use cases like the KYC for financial services, national IDs, university credentials, kind of expanding out from the original use case.
Yeah, we did a big mistake, was that we doubled down on healthcare after COVID. We thought we had a quite good presence and experience, so we doubled down and expanded to many more hospitals, which was, in hindsight, a very bad decision, because the hospitals are usually not so willing to pay. They don't easily adopt new technology and solutions. And I think especially the willingness to pay, that the value is not really for them, but it's for the patients. So we spent a little bit too much time working and onboarding a lot of hospitals. The good thing, though, I would say, is that now we start seeing that this kind of investment in creating network effects is start paying off. We start having these network effects where, in fact, the hospital medical bill is really useful for a insurance company. So we had to invest. We kept investing in onboarding the hospitals, because we saw that the value they will add later on would be beneficial, not only for the user, but also for other companies, such as seafarers. They need to have the medical checkups in order to get a job.
Yeah,
So
interesting.
It's the hard part is really the sales, with IT. And I think what we face a lot is the idea that we work with different type of organizations. So it seems like a big threat that wait a second, you have one company start having all this data about people from different sectors, and so explaining the decentralized nature of this is is a challenge.
Right, right.
And when it comes to you mentioned financial KYC, we have stayed away from regulated areas for that reason, because they are regulated, and usually they are quite busy. A lot of people trying to solve them. A lot of eKYC and verification, and we've felt that at that time we couldn't really add so much. But now when we start having these so network effects, we can start adding on quite interesting values to a KYC. No, not the ID itself, but you know, when you want to have a new financial customer, there's so much more than the identity you want to know. And I see the investments, so to say, we have done so far, now start adding value that you can identify a student as your customer, or you can identify a overseas worker or a seafarer. So that we start seeing as a quite interesting benefit for the financial services.
Right, right.
But
Yeah,
so
interesting.
coming back to, I left the technology. The last part was that when we launched in August 2021, we stopped developing our core API, and for 12 months we didn't touch it. So we spent 12 months just working on adoption, fixing the app, fixing all these other things to get people to start issuing, verifying, and want to receive credentials. And that's where we spend all our time, in fact. Me personally, that's why I got a little bit stressed listening to you, because I realized that I'm so out of touch. I just sell. I spend all my time trying to understand needs and problems, meeting with organizations, and kind of problem solving and developing user cases. So now I realize we have a bit old tech.
Yeah, there's a lot happening in the community. It's always interesting to get the full roundup of everything that's going on.
Yeah.
What other questions do other folks on the call have for Andreas?
Questions I usually get is what solution we will be moving to, and why we are with what we are. And I think it was Sam, in fact, that gave me the advice not to change technology, but start adding on. We've kind of been inspired by what he said to really not try to change what we have built up that works, but instead figuring out how we can add on other solution technologies that are coming up. So for example, the choice using DIDCOM versus OpenID, which we still haven't really figured out what we should do, because we like what we have, but there might be that the industry or community start pushing for that, and then we probably rather add it on in some way instead of replacing. Same thing with ledger versus ledgerless, or different credential types. So instead of changing to another credential type, we might add on one for a specific use case or purpose. So we are very pragmatic and focused on what will be the difference. What is the benefit we will have? What will the customers really say?
Right.
Can we make it cheaper, faster, better, or is it just nice to have? Or does the speed really matter? I mean, if you have an academic credential, does it really matter if it's cheaper or faster? Because probably you want to make sure that it can last for a very long time instead.
Mhm. I know in Europe, there's been a lot of conversation related to EIDAS and OpenID for VC and those sorts of standards. Have there been any changes of requirements or standards in Southeast Asia that you've had to be aware of?
Not really. I haven't looked.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I think we haven't heard anything so far.
Mhm.
What we are more concerned, what we try to listen to is more the requirements and interest when it comes to handling metadata. For example, we work with sovereign, for example, but there could be cases where a government or a Ministry of Education says that, well, that's good, but we would like the metadata to be stored within our country.
Right.
So these are more the considerations we're trying to understand the needs and demands of these things. And then, of course, I'm in a quite complex market as well. So there's a lot of different considerations to take into account when it comes to storage of servers and processing of data, where it happens and how.
Right. Thanks, Alfonso, for joining. With the pictures in your presentation, it sounds like there's a lot of interaction with the people who are using these credentials. And do you personally interact often with the people who are using the technology and being affected by it day to day?
A lot. I think, and that's what helps us the most is that we are interacting. We are working with our issuers. So we go and help them on the ground, on sites. So, I mean, you can see photos of us being there also for learning purpose. So we're studying how they're using the app. We are trying to understand the best way for someone to handle issuance. So it's really how can we scale and better support the issuers and the verifiers, the users. So because the different levels of digital literacy, different needs.
Mhm.
So we have in every week we kind of collect learnings and plan. So we usually work. That's why I say we don't really have a roadmap. We have an idea, we have a mission, but then we plan really what we do 6 weeks at a time.
Right.
So in 12 months, I have no clue where we're going to be.
Yeah.
We are really driven by our mission, what we want to achieve, but exactly how that will happen. It might be that in 6 months we have to do some change to some technology side, but there's nothing we have planned yet. It will come as if it becomes a priority or not. But now most of the priorities are all really around adoption, figuring out ways to add more value, enable people to share credentials with each other and easily log into websites. Because right now we are integrating with 2 ticketing booking websites. It's quite exciting with big volume.
Nice. Yeah, that's a lot of really interesting use cases.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's why I said, I mean, technology-wise, I can probably not share so much to you because but what we have that we're happy to share is really the hands-on, blood, sweat, and tears.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Let's see, are there any other questions from others on the call? So, well, thank you so much, Andreas, for your time. This was a super interesting presentation. Sorry it's so late in your time zone. Thank you
No worries.
for taking the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm happy you let me get away easily with no hard questions.
Well, thank you for answering my many questions and yeah, for a super interesting presentation. Really cool to hear about your use cases.
No, absolutely. Happy to contribute.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're willing to send me the slides, I can attach them to the meeting page as well. We have a fair amount of folks who like to watch the recording after the call. So that way
Sure.
people can keep up more easily. And if I can put your email on the meeting page as well, then people would know where to contact you, if that's
Absolutely.
okay. Okay,
Absolutely.
great.
Happy to.
I will do that. Awesome.
Great.
Well, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for your time. Yeah, and thanks everyone else for joining the call and helping out with working group status updates. So really appreciate it.
Thanks all.
Thank
you so
you.
much.
Thank you.
Have a good day.